All right. Hey. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. And if I could have a motion to adjourn in a closed session, I'd love it.
So moved.
Let me get the motion first. Moved? We don't need a roll call tonight. Second? You want to do a roll call vote? Okay, we've never done that before, but I'll do it today. I'm here, Jen is here, Michael's here, Chris is here, and Stephanie's here. All right. I already had a first and a second to adjourn. I'll do do I need a roll call vote on this? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we're in closed session. Can you hear me, Travis? Okay. Well, here we go. I need a motion to reconvene in open session, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Noes? Abstentions? The motion passes 501. Time for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags over that way, folks. Ready? Begin. Thank you. You have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved.
It's been
I'll
moved
second.
and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes 500. Announcement of actions taken in closed session, there was no action taken. Individuals desiring to address the board. I have a couple, I have two that were sent in. Should I read those first or let anybody that's here? Probably with the first. Okay, all right. I'll read the first one that was sent last Friday. Dear Spreckels Union School Board of Trustees, I write today to express my deep gratitude for your stewardship of our district resources, especially our human resources, both students and staff. This has been a year of unspeakably painful losses and challenges. The year of physical isolation and the need to function in a digital environment have been traumatic for those of us who love being in the classroom with our students and spending time with our colleagues on campus. At times, the perception that our community felt we weren't doing enough, being enough, was crushing, given that we were all doing the best we knew how to do. The safe return to campus in the form of our hybrid schedule was just the remedy for the encroaching darkness. I want to be crystal clear that I'm looking forward to a full return in the fall under whatever safety guidelines the state and local county health department require. However, right now, I'd like to share my appreciation of and reflections on our hybrid model and the positives that are coming out of this phase of instruction. The smaller AM/PM cohorts have been a wonderful reentry mechanism in preparation for a full fall return. It is allowing me to nurture my students and help build classroom community after a year of screen separations. It is allowing me to identify areas of learning, concern, and most importantly, to address those areas in meaningful ways. The ability to work with each and every individual student in every single class period is nothing short of unprecedented in my teaching career. Students have such easy access to me because our classrooms are smaller, quieter, and more intimate. This is exactly what we need as we heal from this pandemic, which we are still facing because it's not over. Students themselves have positive comments about our current model. They like not having larger class sizes with disruptive students that divert the teacher's attention. They have demonstrated they are more willing to ask questions and participate in class discussions with a smaller audience. We all know these conditions will change in the fall, and we look forward to our loud, controlled, chaotic school family. We love the laughter and screams and energy that all that brings. But for a community that is healing and still surviving, this model is a blessing. I know that many families are worried about perceived learning losses, and I know that it will be a while before we understand the full impact of distance learning gaps for our kids. It is my professional perspective that our current model is safe and our best chance of addressing the social, emotional, and academic needs of our entire community in the present time. Thank you for this opportunity to heal and serve my students in an effective and compassionate way. I appreciate you sincerely, Lori Caldera, 7th grade core teacher at Buena Vista Middle School. Next, I have a letter dated yesterday from Ryan and Christina Stitt. Dear Spreckels School Board Committee members and trustees, first off, I want to thank you for your commitment and dedication to supporting our school. I think I speak on behalf of many district families who believe that our schools are the foundation of our community. On March 19th, 2021, the CDC published the revisions for physical distancing of 3 feet in between students while in the classrooms. After reading through the documentation published from our board meetings, it is, to the best of our knowledge, the reason our board voted on a hybrid schedule was due not to having individual desks or enough buses for transport to accommodate social distancing requirements. However, we could not find anywhere within the LCAP, the school board agendas, or the reopening committee slides how we are addressing these two topics. On the survey parents completed before returning back to school, one of the questions asked was something like, do you require bus service? Many working parents possibly selected yes, like myself, without any background knowledge behind the question. If the question provided a little background, such as something like, we are able to offer in-person school full-time, but are limited to X number of children to utilize bus service in order to maintain social distancing requirements. Would you be willing to drive your child to from school? Just as Carmel Unified School District voted unanimously to support this effort, I believe we would see a similar response from the number of district families needed to support this effort to get our children back to school full-time. I would ask that our board and reopening committee highly consider this approach in preparation for next school year. In addition, it would be very helpful to communicate to our district families what efforts have been made to purchase the desks needed to address the social distancing requirement of 3 feet to accommodate getting our children back to school full-time. Our personal family circumstance of having a third grader who has experienced a significant educational and social development gap is why I'm speaking up on her behalf to support getting our children back to school in person, school full-time. It would sure be helpful to receive in writing that our school decision makers are addressing all of the potential obstacles within control that will support getting our children back to school full-time in August 2021. Sincerely, Ryan and Christina Stitz. Here. And now I have folks here in person. It's been over a year. I'd like to start with Michael Light. Okay. Next one, Francisco Valdez? Valdez?
Yeah, my question is the same thing as if the CDC updated their distance 3 feet, when is the school going to update their distances? By putting it 3 feet, you could fit more kids in the classroom and have them all day here in school. We're both working parents. We've had 5 babysitters a week. There's different babysitters. We cannot continue this. So one of our sons, he has to do homework till 7, 8 o'clock at night. Because it's a babysitters for teenagers. So we have to, mostly my wife has to sit down with one of them, and they stay till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night to complete the homework. So basically, this is killing us. We work in produce. We did not have the option to stay in our houses. We were told, you need to work, you need to feed the country, and that's what we did. So we need help. Our kids need to go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Valdez.
Do you have a podium where this gets recorded along with everyone else online, or, because I don't think they can hear me? Is it usually customary for a board to have a podium for this medium, especially when you're broadcasting online?
You know, I will step aside and you can come right here if you'd like. You're welcome.
My name is Carrie Valdez. I've had both vaccinations, so I feel very comfortable using Trustee Cato's table here, and so I'm perfectly fine with that. I am the parent of 2 children here at Spreckels, and they are in 3rd and 5th grade. My experience is similar to many in terms of learning loss, withdrawal, lack of communication and ability to communicate their feelings, and a desire to become a YouTuber. That's it. That's their aspiration here going forward, and I wish them the best, and I will support them in every way that they can. I am in the egg industry, and my role is from not an option to be working from home, and it never was an option. I run 3 facilities here locally and 4 other facilities between Canada and the United States in food safety. Even if I was at home, my ability to pay attention to the teacher and convey those expectations to my child wasn't an option. There was a day where I tried it, and I miserably failed. For those parents who have been able to work from home, honestly, I call it a blessing in disguise that I could not, because you have been working so hard to pull everything together to make the best of this situation, and I thank you. As my husband said, we've paid 5 teenagers a week and now employ a tutor. And I'm not one for a pity party, but I will argue that the district has not done enough to take care of our children and make sure that the use of the rapid response of the California system, our local companies, ag companies who have taken the opportunity to make sure that their employees have gotten the vaccination, just like the teachers to get their vaccination, utilize that to quickly get us back in and educating our children as much as possible. Mondays, even 4 more hours a week is something better than nothing. I'm glad we're in school. If we weren't, that would be a pretty big shame, but we can do better. If you fail to plan, you've planned to fail. We can't predict the future, but there are a lot of opportunities to make additional plans for steps A, B, C, and D, not just one, or wait until the final answer and then react to that. As I mentioned, I never stopped working in person, which makes me and so many more in this agricultural community and community of nurses and others who never stopped working a great resource to be on your reopening committee, to be people to lean on, to be people to think about how to set up your classes and classrooms so that you're ready to go from day one. I think a lot of us are used to being proactive and really experts in our area, and that's why we lived here. I myself, we were in Lincoln for a while, and then that became popular, and so an interdistrict transfer wasn't an option, and my kids have been shuffled back and forth until we finally purchased a home in Las Palmas so that we could come here. We felt that the small community is the great place for advocacy for our children and getting them the education that we needed, not just to go with status quo and what's available at the time. The reopening committee was filled with very wonderful people and very good friends of mine. No qualms, no nothing there. But there was definitely an opportunity to do more, to reach out to the people who never stopped working and were able to help above and beyond and in different areas of what we already have. In my opinion, the board is not an even distribution or representation of the constituency here in our district. It is not representing the district that it is elected to serve. And that makes sense, because only one person here sitting beside me was actually elected, and that was on a ballot in 2015. Shame on us, right? And we won't let that happen again. The YouTube link is something that I've used often over the last several months, but it does not involve interaction, communication, and involvement with the constituency such as we should be doing in our small community here. On your Facebook page and social communication, February 25th is the one and only notification of an up-and-coming board meeting. You have a web page with some listings of board meetings, and that's it. Even the special board meeting wasn't even commuted on the social platform. So how are we supposed to get involved if we're already just trying to keep up as is? I know when it's color day, I know when it's spirit day, I know all about Dr. Seuss and when you're selling the swag. Governance is my focus and getting my kids educated. So I look forward to seeing hopefully some action from my comments, and I know that myself and a lot of other community members look forward to doing what we can do to make sure that we're pushing for the communication that we deserve and the interaction that we need within our community to get our students where they need to be. The polls, I think I got a poll once about, do I want AM or PM? Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that meant 2 hours and a half with 20 minutes of PE. We deserve better. and I look forward to receiving more in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to bargaining unit presentations, STA.
I'm Kelly Baraki, I'm Vice President of STA, and I have a quick statement. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. The teachers of Spreckels Union School District are thrilled to be back in person with our students. Our teachers continue to work in order to keep our students learning and engaged, supporting the needs of both our in-person and distance learning students. And while the hybrid model is challenging, we are thankful that the reopening committee realized the importance of maintaining this current model for the duration of the 2020-2021 school year. We know that it's the right thing for this group of kids at this point in time. Come fall, the teachers of the Spreckels Union School District are united in their desire to return to a full-time in-person model of instruction under whatever safety guidelines are required per the Monterey County and California Departments of Public Health. We're looking forward to a stable end to this current year and a fresh start in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. CSEA.
I can never follow anything right after the teachers speak. My name's Heather. I know I can allow you on the computer. And for the most part, I speak for most of us as the classified staff, is that we're grateful to be back in the aspect that we are. I know the AM/PM hybrid is difficult, not just on students, but staff. But it's just so great to see the kids get on the bus, be on the playground, smiles on their faces. I know it's a lot challenging. I have a daughter in high school who has faced challenges also with learning, distance learning, but I think we just need to focus on finishing the rest of this year and focus on getting back to full time in the fall. And we are willing, whatever the district determines, we're willing to go with. So, thank you.
Thank you. Board member comments. Michael, do you have any?
No comment, thank you.
Chris?
No, thank you.
Stephanie?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
So it's Teacher Appreciation Week and Classified School Employee Appreciation Week shortly coming the 16th to the 22nd, I believe. So I just want to thank you all, send a thank you again to all teachers, staff, leadership. You know, if ever there was a year to acknowledge and celebrate your hard work and dedication to our district children and families, I think it's now. I know it's been said, but it's worth continued recognition. You were asked to pivot rapidly in spring of last year to teach virtually, and you did it with grace and a can-do attitude that I feel really transcended to our students as well. Then the planning and preparation for this year virtually, though hoping it would only be needed for a short period, but instead, you held learning together for nearly the full academic year. You are sheroes and heroes to our students and to me, and so I want to say thank you. I see you and I hear that you need to be cared for as well after this year, as many of you too have families and young children of your own, and so too may be experiencing double burnout symptoms as teachers and as parents. So this leads me to recognizing that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So this year, for many, this was the most challenging year of their life, whether affected directly by COVID or by the many ramifications of the COVID pandemic. This month provides us with the opportunity to recognize, talk about mental health, increase awareness, and reduce stigma so that people can feel safe in seeking support. We have heard throughout this period from all stakeholders about the social, emotional, or mental health needs of our students. This week, too, is specifically Maternal Mental Health Week, which traditionally recognizes perinatal conditions such as postpartum depression and anxiety. And this year, too, is including something we're calling burnout, which we are learning more about, and you may have heard about. The pandemic has greatly increased the risk of parental burnout, particularly in mothers, and perhaps even more in pregnant and postpartum women. I know that parents and families have struggled deeply this year, and I see you and I hear you as well. I also want to recognize the incredible administrative and district staff that we have here. As I was poring over the audited financials last night, it became even more clear to me what a large operation a school district is and the leadership that is required to run it effectively. And noting that we have a small district office, so I want to acknowledge their tremendous dedication and hard work over this past year, probably making an art form out of pivoting as things constantly changed, which required modifying plans again. There has been significant work occurring to address the needs of our students with convenings of the reopening task force and LCAP committees. With that said, too, I want to reiterate that stakeholders are welcome and encouraged to engage in these committees in the future, and this is a great way to become involved in the process and learn and provide input. And then lastly, I had the opportunity to sit in on a session with the Spreckels Elementary student council leaders to hear their feedback on distance learning and in-person instruction. And it was such an honor to listen directly to the youth. It was very powerful and so important to include their voice at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I know this is a really, it's been so rough. It's been a year, right? And this, I just can't. It's been a year. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you for speaking up. I thank our teachers. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you very much. Our parents, of course. We thank our parents, and I thank the children. Thank you, guys. You're doing awesome. I've just seen so many kids really working hard. I've seen many flourish, and I've seen some not doing so well. And I'm looking forward to the opportunities that our district is going to provide to help them. Thank you.
Thanks. And myself, it's certainly, it's been over a year since we've had guests from members of the public, not guests, but members of the community attend our school board meetings. It's been long overdue. Visiting the campuses today, both of them, it's going well under the conditions, all things considered. And I certainly appreciate both classified and the teachers, certificated staff, as well as district management for putting it together as best we could under the conditions that we've had and continue to have. And it's not school, but it's close enough for now, as best we can do. When we finally get through this, it'd be nice to start over, hopefully as close to normal as it can be, if not actually normal. When people ask me, what do you think? It's anticlimactic, meaning we're back into the buildings, school's happening, but it's just, it's sterile, both metaphorically and literally. It's not school. Hopefully we can get there as soon as possible. Moving on, oral and written communications. The board has received 3 communications. One is an online petition signed by a number of folks in the community, both parents and guardians of students as well as constituents, insisting that we open full-time in person 5 days a week as soon as possible. Another was a letter from a CSUMB student who was looking for a project to do. I know that Mr. Tarallo was going to work on that with that student from CSUMB. And then the last one was a letter from the PTO president asking us to be more transparent with the community in publicizing our meetings, our school board meetings, beyond what we currently do. And that's all I have for public, for oral and written communications. Moving on to reports. Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you said, Steve. This is not school, but it's a transition back to normal, and it's a first step. Recently, I heard kids laughing for the first time through the window of my office after a year, and it was awesome, but it wasn't loud enough, and I agree with that. You know, I like the roar of hundreds of kids, and we've all realized that we're just getting through it, but we are expecting a lot more soon. And what I want to say tonight loud and clear so there's no misunderstanding, we expect a full 5-day-a-week, whatever, 6.5, whatever hours are in a day, reopening in the fall. And I know I speak for all the groups today. I mean, you heard it from the teachers, from the classified, and I speak for the management. We're planning for that, we're expecting that, and we can't wait for that. We can't wait for that. And we've asked our parents to do extraordinarily hard things. I'm lucky my youngest is a 17-year-old. I've seen her, you know, fortunately, pre-calculus probably won't come and catch her later on, but because she learned nothing, and so I get it. But we're trying to do the best we can. With that said, the hybrid, I just want to thank everybody for what they've done to make it so successful and so safe so far, and it has been safe. It's been uneventful, and that's a good thing. And that goes, I want to thank the staff, the parents for picking up and dropping off and going through all the new protocols, but especially the kids. And that they're my true heroes. I've had a chance formally with Stephanie to meet with different groups for the LCAP, but also just meeting with the kids today with Steve, and they're resilient. And no, they're not thriving yet, but they're getting closer, you know. And the first day I joked because I was with the mom on the first day back, and little first grader saw another first grader, and he ran and like hugged him, and the mom looked at me like, oh no, we're breaking the protocols. I said, don't say a word. This is exactly what first graders are supposed to do, so we get it. And that was good to see. So with that said, yeah, this is not school, but we're getting there, and we're safely getting there, and thank everybody involved. Big shout out to, it is classified, I'm sorry, it's Staff and Teacher Appreciation Week, so this is perfect timing. So thank you for all you've done. You're always appreciated, but maybe a little bit more this year, if possible. And that's it. Yeah, we're getting through it. Thank you.
Thank you. Buena Vista Middle School Principal.
All right, we are in May. Feels like a very long year, but also feels very quick now that we're back with the hybrid model. We are halfway through the third trimester, so progress reports are coming out soon for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And for our 8th graders, we are in the midst of planning promotion, which we made an announcement today that we're going to be doing a full class in-person promotion out on the field with some limited ticket requirements, but really excited to be able to offer that. Last year at this time, we were doing a drive-through promotion. So third year as a principal, third different type of promotion I've done now. So it's been a year. Wanted to thank all parents. You guys have gone above and beyond supporting your children in their education, and we can't thank you guys enough. I want to do a shout out to all the teachers who classified this year, especially the middle school. We've gone through, I don't know, close to 20 grade books to accommodate all of the different changes and schedules that have had to occur in order to accommodate in-person and online learning, but also the different abilities of what we can offer based on the counts and the numbers of the surveys and everything that we've done. So this year has been a year of pivoting and being flexible, and we're trying to be flexible a little bit longer because I too am very, very hopeful for the fall and returning in person, because I love to start seeing more kids on campus. The loudness that we're talking about, it's kind of our calm noise that we thrive on as educators, but just some normalcy. And so we are now focused on planning schedules for next year and how that will look and how to safely bring kids back. Right now, it's a 3 feet requirement, but still full capacity in classrooms. So it's a lot of work, but we are up for the challenge because our end game is that return to school.
Thank you. Spreckels Elementary Principal.
We have a little video to share, but if it's okay, I just want to say something also. I wrote it down because I tend to get emotional. I just want to share, I'm extremely happy that we have our students and staff back at school where they belong. It's such a good feeling just to be here with them. It's been a really long time, and we're still living through a pandemic. None of us has ever done this before. As an educator, I have never experienced anything close to this journey we have been on since last March. It is hard. But I've learned a lot. I've learned to read smiles in people's eyes. I've learned patience that I never thought I had. I learned that every minute matters. I've learned to really look at things through someone else's eyes. And I have learned that we all need to practice grace, forgiveness, and to show caring and compassion all of the time. I've been an educator for 40 years. Please don't figure out how old I am. 28 of them have been here at Spreckels. I came and I left and I'm back. I love Spreckels. My children went to school here. My grandchildren go to school here. I wouldn't want that to change for anything. This is my community. When this year started, we were in the darkest of times of the pandemic. We experienced the rib fire. We did our best to conquer distance learning, and we have come back to school for our hybrid classes. We did all of this as a community. We are Spreckels Strong. My hope
Thank you. Do we have a representative from SUAF tonight?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle Mazuka, and I'm the current president of SOAP. And I just wanted to offer a recap of what SOAP has done this year. As we all know, the past year has been anything but normal, given the unprecedented circumstances COVID has brought with it, with business and families possibly falling upon harder times, and the programs we support not happening to the fullest extent. And members of SOAP didn't feel like it was appropriate to actively seek donations from businesses and families alike. With that being said, SOAP has had 2 Seas Candy fundraisers this past year, one around Christmas and one around Easter. We were able to make about $6,000 from both of those. We are thankful for the families who chose to participate in the fundraiser and are grateful for what we were able to make. We also made about $1,800 in GLAM donations, where parents just give a straight donation to help support our programs, which is a wonderful, and we appreciate those families who donated through our website. We're also thankful to Tanamir and Ansel, who generously donated $1,500 to SOAP. We will have one more fundraiser before the end of the year. We're partnering up with Pastabilities and offering a family meal deal, which will be ordered online and then picked up at Pastabilities on a specific date and time. SOAP will get $20 for every meal sold. This fundraiser is set for June 1st, so we ask that everyone keep their eyes peeled for district-wide email with more specifics in the upcoming weeks. Looking forward to next year, our exec board will be changing. 2 members who have been on the executive board for the past 3 to 4 years now will be stepping down. We are sad that they will no longer be part of SOAP in our district, but are grateful to both of them for the contributions these past few years. That means we are looking for a few good men or women to be part of our exec board. And so if anybody is interested or knows somebody that is, please reach out to me. And finally, we will be having our last meeting of the year next week on Tuesday, May 11th at 7 p.m. here in Spreckels Auditorium. We have chosen to have it in person, but are happy to accommodate anyone who would like to attend virtually. We plan to elect in new executive board members, discuss our contributions for this year and our pledge to the district for next year, school year, and also to discuss fundraising efforts for next year, which we are hoping to have back in full force, especially if the schools plans to be back full-time and in person with the programs we support being offered to the students. We would love to see new faces and have new input and perspective, so we would like to encourage everyone to show up. Thank you.
Thank you. PTO, do we have a representative for PTO?
I have an update from them.
Okay.
So they are currently supporting the Teacher Appreciation Week and providing activities and gifts. And those are a result of their fundraising activities over this past year and from their budgeting. They will be having their last meeting of the year on May 18th, and that's going to be via Zoom. And they too are seeking officers and are in need of an auditor and a vice president. So please consider.
Thank you. How about Bobcat Club? Anybody from the Bobcat Club tonight? Okay.
Does anybody have?
Yeah.
I can speak for them, but, they've been busy all week, they're doing a boarding pass, themed idea for teacher appreciation with cute little puns every day and treats and staff times and lunches. But they have also really been doing a lot for eighth grade promotion and planning for promotion, so we've been having Bobcat Club meetings weekly at this point. We're gonna take a little break because we have everything set up now, but yeah, they're just kind of plugging away at the end of the year, starting to do PE uniform purchases for next year's, because we're excited to bring kids back into PE as well, so Bobcat update.
Thank you. Business information, fund balance report.
So this report goes through April 30th. It's 83% of this fiscal year. And as you can see, we are in a deficit for this period due to the deferrals of revenue that were adopted in the governor's June 2020 budget. We anticipated this, we have all year, and are leaning on that reserve, the beginning fund balance of 5.1, which brings us to an ending net balance of 4.3. We will see the end of those deferrals beginning in October and November of the coming budget year. And as always, if you have a specific question about any of these funds within the report, reach out. We can certainly go over them in detail.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the board members? Fund balance report? Okay.
Yeah, I just have Peter's normal question. Anything that's making your hair stand up?
Not at all. And actually, though this report was submitted in the board packet as of last Friday, I believe we distributed them, which is even earlier than we would have back when we were meeting on Tuesdays. We have subsequently had our April property taxes posted, and those were right on target, so we're going to see that in the May report. Cash
Thank
is
you.
extremely dynamic, in and out, comes and goes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, facilities update.
So two exciting things on the facilities front. We have, first, I met with Casavan Architects about the Spreckels School toilet replacement project, and then subsequently, the Facilities Committee met, and we are to the point where the committee would like to share with the rest of the board the recommendation to bring a toilet room on the campus that will be on a concrete slab foundation and basically built at grade. There's a significant cost difference in this, but the permanency of the building is what we're looking for. If we put it on a wood platform like it sits now, the DSA, the Department of State Architects, considers that to be temporary in nature, and there's a possibility they could come, unlikely because they'd have to go across every state, every school in the state of California and pull out every portable classroom, but so the recommendation from the committee, and maybe Jen or Steve, you could share with the rest of the board members, is to really focus on the concrete foundation for this project.
Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah,
Potty talk?
you go for it.
Okay, all right, yeah. I mean, why go, wood foundation and temporary? I snicker, but we've had problems with termites here before, number one. Number
Yes.
two, dry rot's a problem, so let's make it permanent, let's pour some concrete and make it something that we're not gonna have to replace after a while.
Very
So,
good.
yeah.
So, yeah, that will be then the next, and Jen was at the meeting as well. I think we as a committee, that was our consensus. So I will report back to Casavan to focus only on that option and start putting that timeline down for us so we can do the back-end work of creating the front-end documents, call to bid, create the schedule of when the contracts will go out to the public, when they'll be awarded. So that's project one. The other project is the Buena Vista Field project, the field improvement project, which really focuses on adding some play courts to Buena Vista. A couple of 4-square, 2-square courts, a ball wall, a full-size basketball court, a fitness center. I think did I bring a picture or did I bring the prices? Oh, I brought the prices. Pictures are for, I want to see the number. So again, the committee went over the options, and the current cost of the project is just under $1 million. So we're giving this as information now that we've talked about the direction we want to go, but there's an action item coming up specific to this project, which speaks to extending the scope of the landscape architect's work to move us into developing the contract documents, setting that date to go out to bid, and hopefully getting this project started late July, early August. We talked specifically to Kate about her view of having it happen when school was starting, and Kate, maybe you can speak to what you shared with us at the committee about.
Yeah, so obviously there'll be some noise and interruption, but we're going to work with the company and making sure that we can alleviate that as much as possible. We can still hold, because this will be in one area of the field, it will not take up the entire field, so we'll still be able to have students dispersed across the field in different locations. Since we've got baseball diamonds, will still be available for use. A lot of our student population still enjoys the pavilion, which will be out of the construction zone. So really the only classrooms that will be near any
Kids are ready, and we have a lot of students who really use the pavilions, but adding the basketball court, adding the outdoor fitness area will really help with our PE department, and it's just going to be such a benefit to the site. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Like I say, this is a situation where when we're doing these projects, I'm always concerned that it's going to affect the classroom. What are the kids going to do, right? All of this. Right now, I just want the kids there. Let's hope that it's disrupting the kids, right? Like, let's get them on campus and let's figure this out. We can, like, we were talking about how we're going to drop off the kids. We'll figure it out, but it's going to, like, we got to get the kids there, right? And then they're going to, right? It's a good problem to have, what are we going to do with the kids there too, right? I think that's what it,
Just the ads that the committee came up with will be so nice. The wall ball courts alone, I think are huge.
yeah.
But basketball is very popular, and they're always fighting for the net use for volleyball out there as well. So having that extra court is really going to make a big difference.
It's okay to come out with my lacrosse stick and hit the ball. All right. Okay, thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, more to come.
More to come.
Okay, LCAP development update for next school year.
Yeah, so one of the silver linings of this last year is that we've received pots of money from the states and federal governments that are kind of unprecedented. And we're going to be able to do some exciting things to start the healing and things that, I've done this for 11 years or so, and the idea of having a full-time counselor and some things that are going to be really good for the district. So this is kind of like a progress report where we've been. So so far, well, this LCAP's unique in the sense it's trying to put together 3 fragmented years. So it starts with an annual update from the 1920 year plus this year's continuity plan that rolls us into the real LCAP. So that has actually been finalized, and we sent it to the MCOE because eventually we'll need to get their blessing on it. And they've given us their first round of feedback, and it's a real positive. So that's a check off on that list. Stakeholder engagement's been going on since March. I want to thank the members of that committee. We've met, I think, 3 or 4 times, and we've done a lot of electronic brainstorming. And I think we put together some priorities that will come to you in the form of the first draft of the LCAP at the end of this month for the public hearing. And we'll kind of share some of the things that you'll see. School site councils at both schools have been ongoing or will start. They're gathering site-specific feedback on the goals. We've talked about, we met with both kids. I met with students at Buena Vista with Kate, a couple different groups, and also at Spreckels. And their number one priority is being back with their friends. That's, ask them both, what was the hardest part? Being back with your friends. So ideas for the principals as far as new enrichments, new ways for them to socialize in the fall will definitely be in the LCAP. And then we'll be doing some surveys. We've already done the what's called the Healthy Kids surveys and getting their feedback. And all of that will be included in the stakeholder section of the LCAP. We brought to you 3 goals that we were recommending. You kind of gave us the green light. We're recommending a small tweak, going from 3 to 4. Not much has changed with the substance. It's just kind of a way to better track the actions and the expenditures. So if you want to flip to the next one. Here were the goals. 3 and 4 are still identical. 3 was basically focus on diversity, equity, and innovation, and with enrichment opportunities. 4 was talking about state standards, having rigorous curriculum in all the classes. And number 1 was basically providing all types of support systems for struggling students. And we included all struggling students together, meaning we included the COVID-19 impact with what are called the unduplicated. So we're splitting them just because it just makes more sense in the plan itself. So it's kind of a cosmetic change. So the first one's really talking about support systems for the impact of COVID-19, so experiencing learning loss, any type of social emotional trauma. And then the second one deals with what are called the unduplicated students, which are the English learners, low-income students, and foster youth, because we get different funds, supplemental funds for that group as well. So that's kind of a slight change to the goals. Goal 1 will include things like intervention staffing, professional development, data monitoring systems, a lot of social emotional support. I kind of hinted at the full counselor. Kind of an audit of our special ed program, technology devices, partnership with our parent groups, and a big emphasis on this 3-phase bridging program that is starting to kind of really take life. So I think did you guys see this slide yet? So we talked about the bridging program being 3 phases. The first, the tutoring. Second being, I guess you can call it summer program, but we're calling it early fall because we want to kind of front load the next school year. And then moving for the next 3 years, a really robust intervention program. So far, phase 1 is ready to hit the ground. So next week, I think the first kids will be tutored. Thank you to the teachers and the principals for getting those lists. And phase 1 is really focusing on the most needy kids. So it was the targeted maybe 10% roughly. And it's going to be up to 3 hours a week of one-on-one tutoring or small group tutoring, no more than 3 kids, either in the morning in person or after school in person or virtually. We're pushing for the in-person because obviously a lot of the reason we are providing tutoring is because of the in-person lack of. So that's going strong. Next, goal 2 will include things like our English learner development, staffing, and curriculum, professional development in that subject, again, data monitoring systems, social emotional support specific to our Spanish learners. The Harmony at Home organization that we work with, we've been able to provide English services for the majority of our kids, but also some of our Spanish speaking, we were able to find a counselor that works with them, so that's been great. And again, technology and again, partnership with our parent groups. Goal 3, you'll see things like, again, partnerships with our parents, many more enrichment opportunities, recruitments of both our staff as well as parents or community members or other types of consultants. And I'm sure you could read, but basically it's everything enrichment with a big focus on equity and diversity. What you'll see at the end of May is a big equity committee will take a more prominent role in quarterly reports. And last 4, this is the rigorous state standards. So professional development, instructional materials, and so on. Next. So this is where the fun started. So with the LCAP committee, we identified kind of a wish list of new positions for the most part to support those goals and actions. And the first draft I brought to the group, I said, okay, this is like, what you asked your kids for Santa Claus. Here's your first list, right? And then now you go through and identify the top. So what we did is we did a polling of the committee, and they were asked to rank each of these 6 new staffing positions from a 10 being top priority to 1 not being a priority. So a perfect score of 10 would be like it was everybody's first, it was like a top priority for everybody. And I think visually you could see how 4 really stood out, and that would be beefing up our intervention to include a full-time intervention teacher at Spreckels and a half-time at Buena Vista in addition to the math support that's already there. A district-wide counselor, actually, I think it pulled almost highest. And that person would be district-wide, but pretty much centered at Spreckels. We would also have Harmony at Home at Buena Vista, so really would the equivalent of 1.5 district counselors. 2 general ed instructional aides, in addition to the one we have. We have special ed instructional aides that work with the special ed staff, but these would be kids that would push into general ed classes, intervention, English learners. And then the other one that pulled really high was an extra, well, here's the story. Years ago, we had a retirement in 6th grade, a 6th grade core teacher. We didn't fill it, and Kate's been kind of like working with, mirrors for the last 3 years trying to plug it to keep class sizes relatively low. Well, that wasn't going to happen this year. Once we go back to full in the fall, those numbers were going to go up. So I guess it was the highest ranking, was to get a full-time core teacher in there to bring down those 6th grade class sizes. And that seemed to be everybody's top priority. So out of the 6, those 4 will show up in the LCAP. The 2 that won't at this point, but again, that's why we're on this conversation, so if the board wants us to kind of take another look at those, One idea was a district-wide substitute teacher to provide release time for teachers for collaboration purposes. And then with the emphasis on social emotional health, there's an idea of adding like a PE specialist to the lower school. And just by number, one person could probably only see 2 grades, so it would be really focusing on 4th and 5th grade, kind of a model at Buena Vista. They'd have PE X amount of days, and then they have health. So, yeah. So that was from the committee, and again, graphically, 4 stood out. So unless you want me to the group to revisit those 2, you'll see a draft version at the end of May that has those 4 plugged into the action somewhere. Next step, we'll continue our stakeholder engagement. We'll revise with the feedback that you just saw, those that polling, as well as anything that's mentioned tonight. We'll build that into the LCAP, align it with expenditures, and bring that to you on March 27th for the public hearing. The LCAP and the board and the budget go hand in hand for a public hearing, and then the adoption, which is like a week later. So, any questions about the LCAP process, or?
Anyone have questions?
Steve, I've got a couple. First one's really a comment. I think, and it's probably because my hearing aid just, the battery went out. So I'm not hearing it all in this ear and only a little bit in this ear. But I think the use of mics is pretty important. And the one parent that came up and used the microphone to make her presentation, I'm sure the people in the back of the room can't hear what people in the front are saying to us.
Oh, my mic's
And
on.
so we need to get some kind of a microphone system for that for the next time. Even though we're still figuring this system out.
Yeah.
That would be really good. Second, my real question is, in the part that you're talking about the bridging program,
Yes.
there are some aspects of that that directly address some of the concerns that were expressed by some of the parents here tonight. Can you tell them a little bit more about that and how to access that?
Sure. So we're looking at 3 different phases. Each phase would add more kids to the program. The first one's really the intense program for the kids that through distance learning attendance rates, through their classroom performance, through teacher recommendations are the first targeted. And so I think we're in the process of reaching out to those parents, seeing if they would want to take part in the tutoring. It seems like we might have more spaces than we thought. So if through the grapevine or we advertise that, we could take a look at other students. But again, this is the first intensive phase. The second one will be 2 to 3 times as many kids for a late summer program. The discussion I think we had at one point was the advantages of a traditional summer school right after this year, and the consensus was let's not put a punitive or negative connotation to summer school. Let's make it more of a hopeful early fall, kind of like front load the next school year. And we'll be now that the first phase is up and running, we're going to go ahead and start identifying students, try to get staffing for that. And that will probably be at least 3 weeks, probably starting mid-July, running up until a week before school. And again, spread the word, that will be advertised. We'll be reaching out to parents, but there's always room for additional kids if needed. And then the third phase is actually a 3-year program, which would probably include a lot of the tutoring. So phase 1 would show up again in phase 3. But phase 3 is really going to be a lot of those new positions plugged into within the day intervention teachers, an after-school program, and just really a 3-year, because I think we all know that the damage or the deficits of this year, it's not going to be a 1-month fix. It's going to be over the course of 1, 2, 3 years. So this is a 3-year program. It's also aligned to the funds of 3 years. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say the fellow in the back that was talking about needing some help for your son, this is an opportunity for him to get some tutoring and to get some additional help, and you just need to contact the principal. And that's part of the plan. It's not, this is not going to solve all the things, but it's something that directly addresses one of those needs that you had commented about. So I wanted to make sure that we highlighted that.
Or we can reach out to you tomorrow if you'd like.
I'd like to make a comment too on this, is that if you're interested in learning what positions we're hiring for, I know not everyone is aware, you go to EdJoin, you go to edjoin.com or EdJoin, and on EdJoin it posts all the positions available in pretty much every district, and you can put Spreckels in there. And you did talk about the hiring of a substitute teacher for our district. I saw that was low on the list. Substitute teachers are hiring, there's so many, right? So if you go to EdJoin, you'll see all of the positions for our district that we need.
Don't go until after the June meeting, because we can't post them until you approve them.
Yeah, don't go till June.
Yeah.
But EdJoin for education in general, that's where you go to see jobs and postings in districts.
Anything else, Jen?
Nah.
Stephanie, Mike? No. Okay. A couple things. One, the counselor, the district-wide counselor, are we talking just the one counselor or?
So we're going to continue the Harmony, well, actually, we're going to scale back Harmony at Home a little bit, so it'll be a half-time straight at Buena Vista. And Kate, you think?
We don't have the same population that the elementary has. I think we're about half the size. So
Right.
we don't need the same capacity, but we do need consistency with days. And so we'll be working with our Harmony at Home contract to try to set up something that's scheduled and consistent and will be pulled over to the elementary because they have their own counselor.
And then a full-time at Spreckels. So we're basically doubling, for the most part, the social emotional support. The advantage of having a district-wide counselor, they become part of your community, reach out to parents. The Harmony Home counselors are great, but they're very much, they're therapists, and they, they meet with kids, and that's it.
So we're talking about a PPS credential?
Yeah, exactly.
In STA bargaining unit?
Yeah,
certificated
probably
staff member?
probably on a different salary schedule, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is
And then
exactly how we
lastly,
set it up.
with the LCAP, and, I recognize that this, it's going to be a sticky wicket, and it's not just an LCAP, but we're anticipating quite a bit of turnover in certificated staff from year X to year Y. And that's concerning, I think, to lose the institutional knowledge and experience of our certificated staff members that are, moving on, whether it's to
Agree.
retirement or to, somewhere else. If the LCAP can address that need for attracting and retaining some
Okay.
solid folks,
Like it.
that's going to be mission critical, I think, as we get into
Got it. Thank you.
staff and hiring. Now's the time to hire,
Yeah.
because when you get to the doldrums of summer,
Yeah.
the talent pool dries up.
We'll be ready to, we're building that counseling job description because we
Okay.
want to really hit the
Cool.
streets the minute you guys approve it. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else on LCAP, folks? That's it? Okay. Class configuration, please.
So this is version 2, or 3, or 4, or 5. I don't recall. But we are growing, that's the main thing. We started out at 881. As of this report, we're now at 939. And since last week, I think there's been some more growth at the elementary level. Eric had a very productive call with the superintendent from Salinas City Elementary, to address these inter-district transfer delays in some of our renewals and even some of the first-year requests. So we're holding steady with our staff at this point, but we're still a little bit behind where we'd like to be come August.
Nothing in that meeting made me, alarm me. I didn't know if they were going to change the policy. They're just going to be strictly enforcing the current policy, which they should. They are declining enrollment, as you know, and so they,
All right. Any questions on class configurations of the trustees? Anybody?
I have a quick question. So we're planning for 3 kindergarten classes? Is that-
We have enough students at this point for 3 kindergarten classes, and we have, through natural attrition, a vacancy for that position if we need it. If we don't get the 25 or 26 kids that we might need at that grade level, we're going to hold on the hiring of that position.
If we looked at trends from the last few years, how many kids from like now until the beginning of school, and if we trend the same as we had, we're hoping to get the 4th one,
Okay.
but we don't want to commit that, just responsibly. So we're hoping for the 4th, and if they come in like they have before, then yeah.
No, I think it probably will come in, and it'll be a multiple subject credential, which are they're easier to find than the middle school math credentials or science or, so. but it's too early for me to post and fill that position, because not knowing exactly, now that we have a little better indication of what Salina City is intending on doing. Worst case scenario is we're overstaffed 1 year, we have a year to do a catch-up because of the way ADA is, the state supports declining enrollment by recognizing the higher of the current or the previous year. But the uncertain part about this, and we expect information at the May revise, what is the prior year? Because in 2021, we didn't even report ADA, so there is no prior year in 21-22. We're hoping it goes back to 2019-20, because that was a good, stable number. But that hasn't been codified yet, and I know there's a lot of action in Sacramento to get that clear for districts, because it could have a huge impact on their staffing levels. And across the state, enrollment is down. We don't know how many kids are going to go to these virtual academies, stay online forever.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to be conservative in terms of those staffing, those positions that we can hold without great, I mean, I know Teresa hates it, but
Yeah, it's rough.
well, we're
Yeah.
not waiting till the summer.
I
We're
know.
just, I mean, we said a week ago, let's wait another month. So that's going to put us at the end of this month. And I think by the time we come to you with our budget adoption, we'll be ready to make the decision.
One thing you can count on is to not see a hold harmless provision. That's not going to happen
For 1920
for next
being
year.
the year,
Yeah. That's not going to happen. I don't think so. But anyways, we'll see what the May revise says, but I don't think there's going to be a hold harmless. I'd be surprised,
yeah.
but, if that was the case, so.
And that would be okay if we,
Right.
if we at least got there's not a hold harmless, but 1920 is your prior year
Yeah,
now,
we
instead
can
of
definitely
2021.
live with that.
That we could live with. And
Yeah.
then that's exactly how I actually built the budget.
Yep.
I'm projecting based on that, so. If they would call and ask
Until we
me,
hear otherwise.
I would tell them,
Yeah, right
this is
on.
what you should do. It's
Okay.
fair and it's good.
All right.
So, anyway, class configurations, it's still moving. Every week there's action.
Okay.
I was just showing the sum for the whole
Total-
district.
total,
I
yeah.
like this one to show the growth
The trend,
from the beginning, how much action there is from,
yeah.
yeah.
Any other trustees have questions? All right, annual financial report from 1920.
So I'm going to go to page 104 of this report to the certification that we are bringing this report to you to review, and we'll send this certification to the county office. And then the next favorite page is this one, which says there are no audit findings in any of the following categories to which the district needs to respond, which means that our this is fiscal year 2019-20. And if I seem a little animated, it's because it's amazing that we got through 2019-20 and we did not have one finding in any of our transactions.
That is amazing.
So I credit all the staff in the DO, Monica and Jennifer and Noreen and Travis and everyone that puts up with my internal control pressure. Even all those months we were virtual, I'm just so proud of it.
Yep.
It's really something. And I'm hoping that the same happens for 2021. We won't know for probably until this time next year, but that's incredible.
It is, speaking from someone who looks at a lot of audits in other
Yeah.
districts. Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Good job.
So,
Yeah.
yay us. Go accountants.
That's right.
Did you want to, anything else on that?
No.
Any
I'll
board
calm
members have
down.
any questions or comments about that? Okay, thank you. Okay, Moody's Investor Service Credit Opinion Report from April.
So this is just another informational items to bring forward. We had a review of our credit rating that Moody's conducts usually every couple of years. I don't know exactly what their trend is. but they upgraded our rating based on our conditions of our financials. And this isn't necessarily relevant at this moment in our fiscal planning, but if we were, say, to decide to go out for a bond measure in the very near future, this credit rating is very important because it helps attract those who would support on the financial side of the house after the local voters approve a measure. But more good news, just in terms of our fiscal house.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? Okay. Class size penalty report.
This is information as well. It just tells you that we are not putting more children in any particular class than is legally allowed. And we certify this. This was a very unusual year, obviously, because of distance learning, but we met the requirements in, they do TK through 3 is one level, and then 4 through 8 is another. It's an information this year only. Typically, you would see this with the average daily attendance report that drives our revenue, but because we are in hold harmless, this is the only component that was required this year.
Do we see this every year? Because when it showed up in the agenda, it kind of made my hair stand up. 'Cause I didn't remember seeing it before.
You do see it, but it's embedded in the period 2 attendance report, which captures the average daily attendance, which drives the funding. Because we're in that hold harmless, that piece of this report was not applicable, but for whatever reason, they still wanted to see that we were not violating the size of any individual class.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
The name of the report is kind of off-putting, right? Class size penalty.
Yeah. So you're just saying it wasn't a separate agenda item.
No,
It was in another report, and we have seen this every year
You
with
see
no
it.
penalties.
You see it every year. It's-
That makes me feel better. I just saw that on the agenda.
Because there's no P2
Yeah.
accounting, it became the coverage page.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
so-
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Any questions, anyone else? Okay. Oh, quarterly treasurer's report. That's always,
Everyone's favorite.
Quite a few trees in
It's
the
just-
packet.
Yes, shows you how the county of Monterey is managing our cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Any concerns, let me know offline and we can go through the detail.
any questions there, anybody? Okay. Action. Application to use Spreckels Memorial Building parking lot after all these years. Okay.
Oh,
Information
you want me to
first?
move it?
Yeah.
so
Oh,
we
you
can
want to
talk
move
about
it first and then talk about it? Okay.
Yeah. So move to approve?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded.
So yeah, we've been partners for years, and this year when we came back, we noticed there was a perimeter fence and no parking. And so we reached out and they were great. So what had happened, they had a liability issue, so they were taking some preventive steps. We reached out, we worked out an agreement for our staff to be able to park in there. We're in the process of buying placards and signs, but they worked great with us and they had a reason to be concerned. But we entered into a joint use agreement, which basically puts our insurance as support too.
And this is just through the end of this school year, June 30, 2021, and then we'll work through a more detailed, possibly even do a multi-year, try to get a 3-year agreement, so we don't have to go through this.
And right now, there's early talks of doing maybe like some electronic gating system that we would probably recommend
I
partnering.
saw that in here.
Yeah, partnering with them at some point to help out with costs, since it's really to our advantage too.
Okay.
That hasn't been played out on their side yet.
Okay. So we're comfortable with this agreement?
This is definitely to our benefit to be able to use the parking lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, trustees, on this? Sounds like it's just until, what, June 30th, right?
Correct.
So it's short-term anyways, and then we'll see something a little more content-rich next time around?
Right.
Before August.
Okay. All right. With that, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries 500. SSA Landscape Architects, Inc., Exhibit A, Scope of Work, Buena Vista Middle School Field Improvement Project, Add Service 02. You want us to go ahead and move it before you talk about it? You got a motion, please?
Move to approve?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded.
This is the proposal we spoke of in the information side of the update on the field improvement at Buena Vista. And by executing this agreement, it continues our relationship with SSA to finalize the construction documents that we will then use to open for bids, call for bids. And there's also a few hours in the proposal to support construction management so that they'll be on site during construction. They can answer questions or respond to the general's questions about the plans. It just allows it, that really supports administration, Kate, me, Eric, in terms of when the project starts,
Get it going.
having a construction management service from the landscape architects. It's not, they're not here every day of the project, but it's just that professional oversight that is worth the money.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions? None at this time? With that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries 500. We're on to Curriculum and Instruction Information Action Plan for providing educational services for expelled students.
Move to approve the plan?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. And I'm going to pause. I'm going to give Jen the gavel, because I need to hit the restroom real quick.
Got it.
That's okay.
You got,
The con is yours. I'll be back.
you got it. All right. You want us to continue?
Yes, please.
All right, you saw the first draft last month, and this is the annual plan that has to go to the county. We haven't expelled a student in more than a decade, hopefully we won't. But basically, this just spells out the different types of expulsion and the different programs for that student. But it does have to be formally approved and sent to the county. It links to, being a small district, we don't have our own alternative ed program, so it links to some of their programs, if we need it. Hopefully we won't.
And we don't have expelled students.
Not in more than a decade.
No, yeah, okay. So, help me out here, Veronica.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Oh, did you call for the vote? Okay,
Yeah. All
sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Motion carried.
There you go, Jen.
Oof, I just need a
Sorry,
little-
Jen, I'm not
low on
hearing,
blood
so-
sugar right now. I'm like, ooh. Okay, motion to plan, let's see, motion to plan for English language learners master plan 21-22. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve?
I'll second.
Okay.
You're
Now
you're
any
good at this, Jen.
discussion?
You're good at this, Jen, yes. So this is also an annual plan. This basically outlines our English language program from identification all the way through reclassification, talks about the different resources and testing. This year, the reclassification, we weren't able to reclassify because one of the main components is standardized tests that have been on suspended for the last year and a half. So this will also include specifically adding some more evidence-based curriculum. The idea with the principals is to make this a much more, for a lot of reasons, including these kids were among the hardest hit in the pandemic, to make sure this program is structured and as robust as possible. We also, those two instructional assistants that we were recommending, and that one of on the pie chart, or I'm sorry, what kind of chart is that, Chris? That's it, yeah. It wasn't a pie chart. I know what a pie chart is. That wasn't one. Those additional staff members will be pushing into classes with these kids or working with our ELD teacher. So that's what that is. It's the annual plan, but just kind of an update. Any questions on it? Jennifer did a good job, Steve.
Thanks.
You're still up, Jen.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Okay.
You know, it might be,
Oh, yeah, any no's? No.
so the next part, I'm sure Steve wants to be here for. It's just the
Yeah.
reopening committee update. So do you want to take 5 or take 3?
Yeah, do you guys mind? We'll take a couple minutes until Steve gets back.
Okay. Let me stretch for 3 minutes. And
Oh, that's a great idea.
poor Steve, we're all like, he's on the clock. We're all like,
Right?
Yeah.
Pressure, right?
I know.
Thank you for helping, Steve. My
teaching
contact
your
lenses
classes?
keep kind of floating up.
Oh my goodness, how's that
When I
going?
think about it, it's a little emotional. Yeah, I was watching the Warriors game, basketball team, and Klay Thompson's injured. But the first night they had the fans back in there, the other players that were playing on the court went over and comforted him because he was so emotional about hearing the players. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure, when we get back in the classroom at some point too, I mean, I'm sure it'll be, it's been a long time,
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
So,
I just wasn't prepared for it.
no. I remember when I walked in last month. And
Are you guys indoors or outdoors? That's hard.
And Wendell was sitting in those little chairs,
Right? You miss those. Just do it. I agree. Yeah, you're welcome. We are at personnel on number 6.
We already mentioned the LCAP committee, and the other big one is the reopening committee, and we'll get to that in the next presentation. Or actually, I'll just transition now if you don't mind. So at the last board meeting, you directed us to reconvene the reopening committee, so we did that the following week, and we met on the 21st. You want to go to the next page? Thank you. And so our agenda was basically to evaluate what our current model, the pros and the cons, what was working, what wasn't. Take a look at this last year, the trends of it, and what to expect next year. We took a look at a possible alternative model to what we're doing now that would increase instructional time each week, in-person instructional time, and/or looking for ways to improve our current model. And then we identified next steps. So that was our schedule for the 21st. So what's working, we kind of mentioned tonight, it's working really well. Again, it's a reduced model, we get that, but it's safe. For some kids, the 3 hours is actually what they can handle right now, so that's been good. And the small cohort size, I think, was included in one of the teachers' comments, and it's a real thing. Today, when we were going to the classes, I kind of commented to Steve and Teresa that, we were in a class for 5 minutes, and in a group of 10 or 12, I counted more than half the class contributed in 5 minutes. That's unheard of in a 25-student class. So there is an advantage of that. Obviously, the social time is the biggest part. Kids are able to see their friends, and they're starting to heal. So that's what's working. What's not working, besides the fact it's not extended, we'd all want that. Specifically, the AM cohort includes the online learners. And that important point is that we have about 30% online learners. And those are parents exercising their legal right this year. So Teresa worked with her staff to try to make the best schedule possible without removing kids from their teacher that they've had for all year. We're trying to reduce upheaval, not add to it. And so she was creative enough to put the online learners in the AM cohort and reduce those numbers because the teachers are going to be asked to do, we call it Zoom in rooms, I think that's the term, to do 2 things at once. And the idea was to reduce that number, push in support staff, and do 2 things at once. It's still hard. And today going around, I just applaud the teachers for being able to multitask. But they're getting it down. After a couple of weeks, they're doing it pretty well. And it was fun to see those kids at home being projected and saying hi to everybody. So I think it's working as well as possible, considering that we're delivering 2 types of instruction at the same time. Feedback from parents and staff. Obviously, it spans a continuum. There's a big, on one side, let's bring them back full time. Totally get it. On the other side, we're getting letters and emails from people that says, if you change the model again at this point, we're going to pull our kid from here, or we don't want to go back. So there's a lot of people in the middle who want us just to hold steady. They made their plans for the year. They have their daycare. And they say, hold steady. So really, it's truly a no-win situation. You have the entire spectrum, and you're trying to do right by the kids. So that was the conversation there. STA, our teachers, provided their findings, which basically said that great to have kids back. The hybrid seems to be working, safe. If I'm missing something, help me out. And CSEA, the same thing. Heather does transportation, and that's not an easy one. And that was working pretty well, right? So next we looked at the year, the review of the year. Now this is actually a document that we're going to, I think, look at next. And this is the document put out by the State Department of Public Health, and it really looks at trends starting at February, March of 2020, all the way to now, and what we knew then and what we know now, how it spread, our kids' vectors. And over the course of a year, we realized our science obviously has changed. We know a lot more now. With vaccines, it's a whole different game, what we can do in testing. So the short of that presentation is that everything's lined up to go back and fall full. The science supports that. So that was kind of the takeaway there, that over the course of a year, things changed. Data changed, science changed, testing, vaccinations. So that was kind of a conversation. And then we looked at specifically what a new model might look like. And we talked about adding an hour a day, which would add up to about 4 hours a week extra, and what it would look like, the pros and the cons. So this would basically address the AM cohort online learner situation, we think a bit better, still kind of hard. And remember, those online learners they have the legal rights. We have to make sure they're getting a quality education. So this would have changed the start time. This would have put the PM cohort kids at Spreckels into the AM cohort. So the numbers would have gone from 10 or 12 to 20 plus. But the online learners would be taught separately. So the entire class would start out together. The online learners would do some independent asynchronous work while the other kids were getting their in-person time. And then the in-person kids would go home at 12:30 versus after 2 hours and 45 minutes as of now. And then teachers would rotate one teacher per grade level each day of the week to support the online learners after. So that was the model we looked at. It's a good model. And we looked at the pros and cons. The pros, obviously, it maintained the same asynchronous day because we are asking teachers to deliver 2 types of instruction. We have an agreement with labor to give Mondays for a needed planning time. It would maintain that. It closely aligns to those labor agreements we have in place. It did increase the instructional time by 4 hours, and we felt it addressed that AM cohort dilemma. On the cons and obstacle side, and this is where I own that maybe, obviously it wasn't communicated well, because what came out of this was it was about transportation and desks. Those were 2 of many, many factors that we considered. We considered them in total. If those were the only 2, it would have been a different outcome, I bet, but there was more than that. So transportation, the issue was on March 19th, when the 3-foot rule changed, which is great, it's going to allow us to get kids back in the fall, nothing else really did. So we were still, Heather, every other seat, is that what it is on the bus?
For the most part, yes.
So we could only transport the same amount of kids, and our polling and our deal with the parents of the PM cohort was we could bring your kids there. So that PM cohort would have to, again, join the AM cohort, but they don't naturally get on the bus because we can't double up the bus. So again, by itself, it was an obstacle we could work around. But again, it was one of 8 or 9. Furniture, the situation is that we had to move the desks and the tables at Spreckels were obviously not conducive to social distancing, so we had to bring in some Buena Vista desks and scatter furniture throughout the district. At the time, we didn't invest in more because we were expecting to go back to some kind of normal. If, again, that was the only issue, we were prepared to put in an order for furniture the next day and be here for the weekend to assemble it, if that was the only issue. Going forward, the teachers and Veronica have already put together a plan for next year. We will have all the desks we need, and they're looking at creative solutions, the kind of desks that kind of can assemble into like collaborative cohorts. So when and if, hopefully soon, kids can actually interact again, those desks can come together and then break out it will give us flexibility we didn't have before. Social distancing, we'd have to go ahead and make sure those desks all had the protective shields, like the ones you just saw in room 1. Different schedule at Buena Vista. We would only change the elementary school schedule to extend the day. And the reason for that is that the middle school is a different beast. Case, do you want to explain how that wouldn't have been? So, yeah, so we were talking about only changing the elementary school, and that would ask parents perhaps to have 2 different schedules of kids. So, again, solve a problem, you could add a problem at the same time. The morale of staff to being asked to change, again, that would, again, if it was the only thing, that would have been one thing, but it was part of it in total list. Increase in the cohort size. Again, the online learners have the legal right to choose that for the remainder of this year. As of now, parents cannot opt for online learning next year, as of now. Things are changing, as you know, every day. But as of now, by moving those kids, your class size of 12 now would go to 20, 24. Normal year, that's fine. That's actually a good number. But teachers have already kind of identified some of the advantages of having small class sizes. And where I saw it today, it didn't hit me until today that I realized that for kids that need to get out of isolation, these small classes almost force them to talk. It's easy to hide in a class of 25, 26. Did it for years. But it's very hard not to contribute in a class of 12. And so there's that, I think, until today, I didn't even acknowledge that as a huge advantage of the current model. Need to restructure support services. Many things changed at the state level this year. At the federal level, there was no flexibility given to students on an IEP, so students in special education. So Tammy, can you explain how you're able to service all those kids with this model and what that meant as far as the right services, the right minutes and all that?
With the hybrid model?
What you had to do to make it work for the hybrid?
Yeah, because we don't have the option of combining all of the kids with the cohort guidelines, we also don't have the option of shifting staff members between multiple cohorts, which is what special education does. So the middle school, good, we figured out how to do that, but the services provided by special education are federally mandated services, which we've had to figure out how to do in multiple different ways since March of last year. In order for the special education services to be delivered during the hybrid model, many of those services are provided when the kids are not in person in the classroom, so that the kids can stay in their classroom with their peers. So we're doing our support services virtually when the kids are not in the classroom. If the kids were all in the classroom all day, we wouldn't be able to serve them in person because of the cohort guidelines, and there wouldn't be enough time to serve them outside of the cohort. It's about $75 a week for special ed.
Thank you. So yeah, that, until you explain, most people don't know that's even happening. So, and then basically, can we all do this within the timeline? We're looking at, it was 30 days when we had this conversation. So what would happen is we need board action, and if that's the direction, we'll make it happen. Labor agreements, next. So that was the decision, pros versus obstacles. If it was 1 or 2 obstacles, if it was just about desks, if it was just about transportation, there would have been a different recommendation to that group. But I think everybody looking there said, oh, in the time that we have to do all this and the cost to, the potential cost or the, this is, in math, it wasn't a one variable equation. Michael, how am I doing with variables? It wasn't a one variable equation, it was like a 7 variable equation. And moving one affected 2 or 3 other things. Does that make math sense? Thank you, a lot of variables. And so, I'm sorry? Well, they could be, but they would require a new agreement with labor. It could.
I got it. That's okay, folks. I don't want to be the bad guy here, or bad board member, but board meetings are, the dialogue is between the board members and staff or amongst themselves. And what do you mean? What do you mean?
I just saw other people communicate, so I thought it was good to ask the question.
Because
I appreciate you responding, so thank you for that.
yes, when we engage with the staff and ask them a question, they respond. It's kind of like a one-way thing. It's just how board meetings function in our system. But absolutely, if you have questions like that, please. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
So again, the question to the group was the pros and cons and obstacles. How do we proceed in the next 30 days? And it was pretty much consensus to do everything we can to improve the current model. And specifically, the teachers, one of the comments from parents is that some of that asynchronous time or the downtime wasn't rigorous enough. So the teachers and the principals are working on giving optional projects, standards-based to families if they want to go ahead and impress and accelerate. Teresa was able to identify more staff to push into those AM cohorts to give them support. And in fact, we were able to, in the last week, hire 2 long-term subs that are now pushing in addition. So the long-term subs were actually posted before this conversation, I believe, right? So we were doing our best. It's just hard to fill right now. Continue working with families to overcome any obstacles. We've identified how many students that we brought back, Teresa? 21 former online students are now in the classroom, and that again alleviates the AM cohort. A lot of time it was initial reluctance, and I think they saw that it was safe, and so they came, and in some cases, thank you, Heather, we worked with transportation to get kind of creative to get kids where they need to be. It's individual kids, 2 kids. 1 kid in a bus. It was a nice bus ride. Kind of cool if you think about it. And then, as we kind of mentioned already, the bridging program is up and running. We're identifying the gaps and trying to address those as we go. Is it perfect? No, but we're just trying to improve the model we have until the end of the year. Until number 2, strong communication that everyone expects a full reopening in the fall. The board's going to entertain a motion to pass a resolution that says that. And that's the board's way of saying this is what our plan is. So that's kind of where we left it. You have any questions, anybody?
Questions from trustees? Michael? Chris? Stephanie?
Well, I'll just comment. I'm a part of the reopening committee, and I think at our last meeting, I was very interested in seeing what the reopening committee had to say. And I felt that, what came out of it was really compelling in support of their recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Jen?
Okay, I have a question. For the distance learners that are in the AM, right, Spreckels?
Yes.
They're AM, okay. So the camera, does the teacher need to be sitting in front of her computer? Because I haven't seen this, so I just want to clarify.
No, they don't have to sit in front of their computer. The teachers have been pretty amazing in how they're able to do it.
Some of them have little microphones like Janet Jackson concert.
That's
It's
what I
kind
was
of cool,
wondering.
yeah.
Do they have a microphone? Because I would imagine that it's in the best interest of the children who are in the classroom that the teacher's moving around.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that the kids at home are accessing the teacher as well as the kids in the classroom.
There's just the little thing that turns so you can see the.
In every class, in all the, okay. And the teachers have this,
The ones who wanted them got them.
okay. I wanted to make sure that. And then for for safety purposes, do all the windows in all the classrooms open?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
One of the things I didn't mention was those obstacles. For the fall, we're already looking at ways to address them. With transportation, if things don't change in the guidelines and we're still stuck with every other row, we're looking at, basically boundaries of who we could transport and who we can't, and kind of a different system for that. So we will still transport per the guidelines, but it won't stop the full reopening. I kind of mentioned the furniture conversations happening. The principals are also looking at different staggered lunch times, because lunch is another 3 feet change in the classroom, but not other places. So they're looking at different options for lunch, for recess. Kate is looking at having perhaps multiple lunch stations. We're looking at staffing for those. So given time, we'll address all those obstacles.
Oh, I have another question. Will the reopening committee continue to meet throughout this, so that way we have solid, ready to go back in the fall? Like or even sooner, right, as soon as we get that summer school, all that stuff going on, like are we?
Yeah, if tonight the direction is to move forward, we will start building a plan for the fall and include the reopening committee with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, the plan for the fall is already happening, but we'd include the reopening committee with that.
Okay, thank you.
Can we change the committee name?
Yes,
can we please?
the full reopening committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Committee.
You know, and
Yeah.
I joked to the people in the committee, they didn't expect a year commitment. It's been a year now and 2 months, so thank you to those committee members for their dedication.
Anything else, board members? Okay, thank you. Moving on, California Department of Public Health's K-12 schools outlook for next school year.
This is the embedded document I kind of summarized for you, and just shows basically a year in a review, what we knew and when we knew it. We can go slide by slide, but I kind of gave you the summary. Is what we knew then, what we know now, night and day. And what we know now says it's okay to bring kids back fully with certain protocols in place.
Yeah.
There it is. That's a great summary scene right there.
Okay. Questions, anyone? Board members? Jen?
I do. For vaccines, I feel that I've heard somewhere, 12 to 15-year-olds should be able to get vaccinated pretty soon here, maybe by the end of the month.
I saw that this week in the news.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that if our kids are getting any reactions from a vaccine, I know that's been a worry in our house, that they'll be absent. Those are absentee rates. I know that they don't count for money, but they count for learning. Yeah. And so I just want to make sure that we're all aware that that might happen.
You just got to communicate to the sites it's a medical excuse, yeah.
I don't want to contradict you, but if it's between P1 and P2, hypothetically, it could count for money in our ADA calculation.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. P1 is early October and P2 is, April. So.
Okay,
I just learned about that, yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. I can get in the weeds on Prop 98, but our eyes will glaze over and you still won't understand it after.
Yeah,
I
thank
think-
you for that
I
idea.
mean, but that's how it works.
It's something we should be
yeah.
prepared for.
Yeah, understood. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Action, resolution. Resolution 2021-14, a commitment to returning students to in-person learning by the first day of school for the school year 2021, 2022. I'd love to entertain a motion on it.
Yeah, move to approve the motion.
It's been moved. Was there a second?
I'll second.
It's been a second. Okay, discussion.
We are recommending you approve it. This is the statement the board can make to the community saying that we have, again, 100% expectation based on what we know now to open in the fall. Full force on August, whatever, 19th, 18th, that week. So this is basically, we could read through it, but I think you have, and that's the gist of the resolution.
Did you want it read into the record, or did you want to?
Sure.
I think it's a nice resolution.
You're a good reader,
I haven't
Steve.
done enough reading
You're
tonight.
a good reader.
Does someone have a copy of it printed out? Can I borrow your device?
Yeah, can you scroll through, because I don't.
It's way after the county treasurer's report, so it's buried.
Yeah, sorry,
172? Thank you, Jen.
sorry.
There's always at least one prepared student, right? Here we go. This is, by the way, this is written really well. I don't know
Thank
who
you.
wrote it, but it looks really good.
I don't know. Co-wrote it.
Pardon me, co-wrote it. Whoever co-wrote it together
Yeah.
looks pretty good. Whereas, as a result of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, California's public schools have been closed to in-person learning since March 16, 2020. And whereas, we recognize the educators who have put in the endless hours of effort to develop curriculum, staff who have worked tirelessly to support our students and families, the parents and caregivers who have juggled simultaneously working and supporting distance learning, and students who have displayed incredible resilience. And whereas, nonetheless, in-person learning has historically been and remains the most effective form of whole child learning for the majority of students because it allows them to explore ideas and dynamic social situations among their peers, teachers, and friends. And whereas we are increasingly concerned about the impact on the academic progress and social emotional health challenges of Spreckels children during this past year of distance learning and the limitations thereof, and whereas President Biden has announced that the U.S. will have enough vaccine supply for all adults to be vaccinated by May, and whereas we are heartened that the Spreckels Union School District community has partnered with the Monterey County Office of Education, local school districts, other local school districts, and healthcare providers to make COVID-19 vaccinations available to teachers and school site staff, and that as vaccination availability increases, that all district staff will have had the opportunity to be vaccinated by the first day of the 2021-2022 academic school year. And whereas we remain committed to following Monterey County Department of Public Health and state health directives applicable to in-person learning and that outline mitigation and safety measures, and therefore be it resolved that all Spreckels Union School District students will have the option to return to full-time in-person school as of the first day of the 2021-2022 academic school year, assuming public health guidelines allow, and be it further resolved that the Spreckels Union School District staff shall work in collaboration with labor partners, representing our educators and other staff, families, and key stakeholders to plan a return to full-time in-person instruction, and be it further resolved, assuming that COVID-19 community transmission rates continue to decline, that Spreckels Union School District shall adhere to public health guidelines that we anticipate will be in place in the fall, and shall also include backup plans that adhere to anticipated public health guidelines in the event that community transmission rates increase. And be it further resolved, Spreckels Union School District will collaborate with public health authorities and others as necessary to educate and communicate clearly and regularly with students, families, and teachers and other educators and staff about the science behind vaccines and their impact on reducing the risk of COVID-19, so that all members of the school community are empowered with accurate and timely public health information that drive reopening decisions. And be it further resolved, Spreckels Union School District pledges to seek and prioritize funding to allow the district to allocate significant school site support for academic intervention, counseling services, and other forms of wraparound support for students returning to the classroom. And be it finally resolved, our firm intention to ensure that all students are able to return to full-time, 5 days a week, in-person learning on the first day of school, August 2021.
Good reading.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. The resolution, the action for the resolution carries 5-0-0. Thank you, Jim. All right, next resolution. I might need that again.
Thank you.
I don't,
Good job, Steve.
okay, thanks. All right. No, I don't think so, were we? Did you want a roll call vote? Do you want a roll call vote on it? Okay. All right, let's go back and roll back the clock and do a roll call vote. But we already know the result, so. Okay, thanks. Is this the next one?
That's this one still.
Oh, okay. All right, Chris?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Next resolution.
Wait, can I ask a clarifying question? I'm fully in support of this. I just want to ask a question. The way that's phrased, it says that they will have the opportunity to choose to return. Does that mean, because this year, one of our issues is that we have some students, like 30%.
Right.
Are staying online.
Yes.
Is that opportunity available?
So we don't know what the legislature and the governor are going to require or not require regarding distance learning. We don't have a time machine. But it's possible they might require it, or they might say, local decision, you decide whether to offer it or not. So we don't know if we're going to be forced to offer distance learning, or that it's something we can or cannot do as a local decision. So that's why it's worded that way.
It's just written a little soft.
Right.
Yeah, well, we don't know the future on that.
Yeah, and to clarify, if we do, it'd be a completely different model that would not affect the full-time. It'd be
Yeah.
run by independent teachers, kind of like an academy.
Yeah,
So that doing two things this year wouldn't happen again.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure. The next one is a resolution supporting people of Asian ancestry and condemning harassment, violence, and hatred towards people of Asian descent. I need a motion, please.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? You want me to read into the record? A little bit of both? Just read it into the record?
I think you ought to read it.
Yeah, I'd like to read that.
Got it.
You're welcome.
Here we go. Whereas basic human decency requires a respect and acceptance for people of all backgrounds, and the motto of the United States of America is e publis unum, meaning out of many, one. Whereas America's professed values include a commitment to liberty, equality, and justice for all, values the country has often failed to reach but should never stop striving to attain. And whereas America's diversity is a source of strength and prosperity, and California's vibrant communities benefit from cultural contributions made by people of every ancestry. And whereas California is home to the largest population of Asian Americans, a group that has enriched the state in countless and invaluable ways. And whereas people of Asian descent have suffered intense discrimination since California's earliest days, including but not limited to the inhumane policies and treatment towards Chinese immigrants in the gold mining era, the Chinese Exclusion Act, the persecution of Filipino American workers, and the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. And whereas that discrimination continues today in the repugnant form of terroristic violence against Asian Americans, and a climate where Americans of Asian descent are being bothered, I think that's a typo, folks, bothered, targeted, scapegoated, and killed because of their race. And whereas an analysis by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University San Bernardino found that overall hate crimes in America's largest cities decreased by 7% in 2020, while hate crimes targeting people of Asian ancestry rose by nearly 150% during that same period. And whereas many school districts fear of violence and harassment has been identified as a factor in low rates of return to in-person instruction among Asian American students, and whereas schools have an obligation not only to prepare students academically, but also to provide the foundation for personal growth and responsible participation in civic life. And whereas schools must avoid the model minority trap and the related tendency to overlook the circumstances of Asian American children merely because this student group, on the whole, demonstrates high academic achievement. And whereas our values of inclusiveness, humanity, and respect demand that we support students of Asian ancestry and the larger Asian American community in this moment of national strife and at all times. Now, therefore be it resolved that the governing board of the Spreckels Union School District condemns hatred, xenophobia, harassment, and violence towards people of Asian ancestry and commits to creating a supportive, inclusive culture that fully embraces students of Asian descent. There it is. Any discussion?
Can we have a discussion? I'm not sure I have a question as much as discussion. So, as an Asian American and someone that, my parents were just out, I got called a chief on the road out here on Spreckels Boulevard. I'm not a chief anymore. But, and I have relatives and friends who have been deeply affected and some of them terrorized during this last year. I'm deeply appreciative of where this motion comes from and appreciative that the issues in front of the board. But I found myself in kind of a strange position of speaking against this resolution because it doesn't make sense to me to do this for every particular group. Asian Americans sure need this support. So do African Americans, so do Mexican Americans, so do short Americans, so do gay, trans Americans. And if we pick out one group to have this resolution for, then we're not picking another group. And so we'll have to do this on kind of a continual basis. And I think in order to really address systemic racism, it's going to take all of us. And rather than taking this one group at a time, we have a non-discrimination and harassment policy existing in the district. And I think that the wisdom in that is that it talks about the whole range of people that we have here. And so I would say that we don't approve this resolution, that we instead look at our non-discrimination harassment policy that's already in existence, that's as comprehensive as we can be. And we trust the professionals that we've hired to teach our children to address those issues with the children appropriately and to try to help them understand and to try to help them help our parents and all of us in addressing these issues on a day-by-day regular basis. So rather than chunking us off again, I'd rather, as an Asian American, stay with our policy and say, let's do this for all Americans, rather than just
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak?
Well, I'll just speak just briefly. And I did bring the resolution to Eric. But in acknowledging too, what's been said, you know, I've only just recently joined the board. And so this was kind of my first step into bringing a resolution. And I've actually brought another resolution
Oh, really?
to Eric for next month. So I didn't intend for it to be that selecting one group. It really was, this was my foray into this. And, you know, I'd be interested in highlighting a lot of other groups as well too at some point, because as you address, systemic racism is impacting many of those in our community and our community school district.
Steve, can I respond briefly? So, Stephanie, I really appreciate it. And the heart behind it really touches me. But the last resolution that we passed was an important communication to our constituency, to our community about what the school district will do in terms of running the schools and what our commitment are in that regard. It was critical for us to do that, I think, in terms of that resolution. This resolution calls for something that I trust our teachers and our staff to be doing on a regular basis, and for all groups. And I don't think it's necessary in the same way that the other resolution was necessary. And I also think that I don't know that people would say, oh, they did this for the Asian Americans, but they didn't do it for us, and we hold that against us. But it's one of those things where we could be doing this for a long time and start, you know, picking out this group and that group and that group. I think we should be active, and I appreciate the activism in speaking out on all of these issues and recognizing what's happening in that community. But I really think the only way that we address systemic racism long-term is to involve all of us and to understand that immigrants in the 1850s, the Irish were put down because they were, the potato farmers were coming in. In the 1890s, it was the Italians that were put down. At the same time that Asians were coming in on the West Coast, on the East Coast, we had the people from Southern Europe who were called the plagues of the earth coming in. And I think the only way that we address that is we try to find a way that we can band together to say, we're Americans, regardless of where we come from. And I just, personally, am kind of resistant to the notion that we, like I said, we're chunk it off.
Thank you for the discussion, everyone. Does anyone, Mike or Jen?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
This has been a tough one. I read through it, it's very well worded. I agree with Chris in that it's to bring everyone together. It's such a tough thing, but I appreciate that we're talking about it right now, and that you're bringing things to the forefront that are very uncomfortable for some of us, like especially with my girls and everything. It's a hard, like, tough thing sometimes, but we do need to talk about this, and we need to be open, and we need to come together. So thank you.
With that, I'll call for the roll call vote, starting with Chris. Nay. Chris is a nay. Jen?
Nay.
Jen is a nay. Steve? I'm an aye. Stephanie?
I'm going to aye.
Thank you. Michael?
Nay.
The motion fails 3-2-0. Or
Other way around.
2-3-0.
2-3-0.
Dodgers, Giants, I forget which one.
Giants go first.
2-3-0. Motion fails. But thank you for the discussion. Although it failed, I think there was some learning that took place, not just with the community that might be paying attention, watching, listening, be it here in person or out there in live streaming, but amongst ourselves. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Sure. Moving on. Final read, Board Policy 6170, transitional kindergarten. I'd love to entertain a motion on it.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been seconded. Thank you. It doesn't matter who, but thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, we lost place.
Do we have any discussion on this? I know it's a board policy update.
Yeah, this was pulled out of typical guide sheets because we wanted to do some confirmation of the length of the school day for transitional kinder. It's actually codified to be different unless we have a all-day kinder program to do. So we did just do some math checking to make sure that we were good and we're good.
Okay, thank you. First read, May 2020 policies per guide sheet. I need a motion. Oh, wait a minute. Did we ever take a vote on the transitional kinder?
No.
Okay, let's go back to that. All right. Okay, may I have all those in favor of the kinder board policy update, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Opposed, abstentions, the motion carries 5-0-0. Let's take a motion on the first read of the May 2020 policies per guide sheet, please.
So moved.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. The motion carries 5-0-0. Consent, does anyone want to pull anything from consent?
Yeah, I'd like to actually pull all three of the resignation and retirements, just to say a quick word.
You want to talk about them now, or you want us to take care of consent and then
Your choice.
you do it now?
Again, very sad whenever we leave staff members. Two of the teachers are actually young teachers that are moving on, just family situations, relocating. Mrs. Gonzalez and Mrs. Freud, I was fortunate enough to be the principal when we hired them, and they were fantastic. And I think, Kate, you inherited some really good ones, didn't you? Yeah, and we wish them nothing but the best. Again, family decisions, relocating. But I also want to just acknowledge Mrs. Hitchcock, who's retiring, and she's been with us forever, working with some of our neediest kids and doing just a fantastic job. She's got the perfect personality for that population, just that calming, reassuring, always, just can't say enough about her except congratulations, it's retirement. So, hey, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thanks to them for their service. I'd rather entertain a motion on consent, please.
So moved.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. The motion carries 5-0-0. Future agenda items. I see a bunch of things on here, but I want to add one more.
Okay.
And this is not to scare you, but we want to add your contract to the next agenda.
No, okay.
Okay.
Scary.
And I think the committee, superintendent's evaluation committee will let staff know what it is we're looking for
Okay.
on
Thank-
that.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just for point of order, that's the June 3rd agenda, correct?
Unless it can wait.
No, well, we're having a May 27th,
Yeah.
this is special
No, it was put on the regular.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, I appreciate the question, now I understand why you asked it.
Stephanie, did you?
Note to self,
that
make sure
resolution, how do you
make sure I
feel
put the
about the-
27th on my
know.
calendar.
Huh? The mental health one?
I don't, sure.
It leads to good conversations. I mean, maybe,
We can
like
talk
last
through
week, the full board here, again, CSBA distributes their
Oh,
their
okay.
templates, and the next one's on mental health
Oh.
month. And so I think go ahead, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Well, I had suggested to Erica bringing a resolution acknowledging May as Mental Health Month. I missed this meeting for setting the agenda, so it wouldn't be on until June. But I talked a little bit about that as well, too, in my comments.
Would it be okay to put it on the special board agenda, since it's still May?
Of course.
And I understand the resolution and the intent of it, and I think that is not something that would result in a divided board decision, I'm pretty sure. It's just acknowledging the month being Mental Health Month, Awareness Month. And so
Yeah.
I think it would be, if I had a time machine, I don't, I know a lot of things, including,
Right. And just to say, I mean, I don't think I would propose every month that gets an awareness, but I thought that this was especially
Yeah.
maybe relevant, because I know we've been
So-
talking a lot about
so
the
if you,
social
if you
emotional
ask staff to
needs.
add it to the agenda, I'm pretty sure they will, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll entertain it.
Yeah.
and-
Okay,
And keep them
then-
coming, it makes for a great conversation.
So, well,
They really
I'll
do.
just keep bringing things and you guys can hit them back.
Well,
right?
again, rich discussion, right?
Yeah, but I think you also figured out what kind of board this is. There are boards that focus on the business of the district, right, and what that is. But there are boards that are activist boards as well as that. And so I think you kind of figured out today what kind of board this is, and that could change over time. Who knows? But now you know, I guess.
Yeah, now I know.
Yeah. All right.
I love
And they
the
are. It's
discussions.
very
Yeah,
healthy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So with that, anything else for future agenda? Well, I'd love to entertain a motion to adjourn if I could.
So moved.
Been moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 500. We are done. Thank you, everybody.